But through that silence, something moved. A signal. Weak, broken, old. It came from a dying part of the galaxy, a place no one had visited in centuries. The signal cried for help. It begged, not with words, but with pain. Many civilizations heard it. All ignored it. It was too far, too strange, too dangerous. But humans listened. On Earth, deep below the surface, a hidden facility lit up. For 73 years, nothing had moved there. No lights, no sound, only silence. But now the machines woke. Red lights blinked. Metal doors opened slowly. And inside a sealed chamber, something began to breathe. She was not human. Not fully. Her body looked human. But inside her, things were different. Wires where veins should, for steel instead of bone. Her name was Eve 9. She had no age, no past, only a purpose. She opened her eyes. In the control room, two old scientists watched her from behind thick glass. They hadn't seen her awake in decades. The last time she opened her eyes, a war had nearly destroyed Earth. She ended it. Not with weapons, with fear. She became something so powerful even her creators locked her away. But now they needed her again. The signal was still playing on the screen. Static. Screams. Strange patterns. Even the machines couldn't understand it. One scientist whispered, "It's not human, but it's crying." The other nodded. Then we sent her. Eve 9 stood in silence as the chamber unlocked. Her skin was cold, her expression calm. She didn't ask questions, she didn't need to. Her mind connected to the signal. She saw stars, dead planets, ruins of cities lost in time. And she saw something else. A shadow. Moving behind the signal. Watching. She boarded the ship without a word. It was small, built only for her. No crew. No weapons. She didn't need them. The ship left Earth quietly. No news. No cameras. The people above didn't even know she had left. In space, time passed differently. Hours felt like days. Days felt like nothing. She sat alone, listening to the signal. It was changing, growing louder, like it knew she was coming. She replayed the voice logs from old missions, human voices, broken and scared. "They're not dead," one voice said. "They're worse." Another cried, "Don't send anyone. It's a trap. It learns from you." Then, silence. She wasn't afraid, but she remembered something strange. A feeling. Not in her code, but deep inside. Something like fear, something human. Her ship reached the edge of known space. Maps stopped working. Star charts turned black. Ahead of her, the stars looked different, dimmer, like something had stolen their light. She arrived at the source. A planet, once full of life, now dead. Its surface was cracked, dry. No oceans, no green. Only black towers standing like skeletons. Her scanners picked up one signal. Still running, still calling for help. It came from deep below the surface. She landed. As she stepped out, the ground cracked under her feet. The wind didn't move. The sky had no sun. Only a soft red glow that came from nowhere. She walked toward the tower. The signal was inside. Still active. Still repeating the same message. "Help us." Inside the tower, the walls were covered in strange writing. Not human, but old. She recorded everything. Lights flickered above her. The deeper she went, the colder it got. At the bottom, she found it. Small room. A control panel still working, and a screen showing old footage. Alien faces. Tall, thin, with bright eyes. They were afraid. One of them looked into the camera and said something in their language. Eve translated. "If anyone hears this and we made a mistake, a terrible mistake." The message ended. The signal began again. She reached toward the console. As her hand touched it, everything went dark. For a moment, no light, no sound. Then something whispered. Not out loud. Inside her mind. You came. She turned sharply. No one there. You listen. You think. You feel. Like them? She scanned the room. Still no movement. The whisper came again. Help us. Or become us. Her systems glitched for the first time. A small error, quickly fixed, but enough to notice. She left the tower. Outside, the wind had started, but it wasn't natural. It carried sound, whispers, too many voices all speaking at once. She looked toward the sky. Black clouds were forming, moving too fast, twisting. Something was coming. She uploaded her report to Earth. The message was short. Contact made. Unknown threat confirmed. Awaiting analysis. Then she sat in silence. The sky cracked with light. Not lightning. Something else. Shapes inside the clouds. Watching. Waiting. She didn't move. She didn't blink. Eve 9 had seen war. She had ended nations. But this was not war. This was something else. A test. She waited, and the stars waited with her. Eve 9 stood still, under the dark sky. The strange black clouds continued to spin above her. Shapes moved inside them, too fast to see clearly, too wrong to describe. But she felt them watching. She had seen many enemies before. Machines, soldiers, weapons of war. But this was different. This was not something that wanted to win. It wanted to know her, understand her, break her. Inside her, warning lights blinked, unknown mental signal detected. Source. Atmospheric. She closed her eyes and blocked the whispers. Her mind was strong, trained to resist control, but even so the voices felt curious. They weren't trying to harm her. Not yet. They were trying to read her. She returned to her ship. The door closed behind her with a soft hiss. The moment she was inside, the voices stopped. Silence again. Her system calmed. She began reviewing what she had seen. The message from the alien leader. The signal repeating the same cry for help. The voices that knew she was human. Partly, something was wrong with this planet. Very wrong. Her scanners picked up movement underground. It wasn't alive, not fully, but it was large, very large. She decided to explore deeper. Her ship dropped a small drone into the broken ground. The drone flew into a tunnel below the surface. The tunnel was not made by tools. It looked melted, like something had passed through it using heat. The deeper it went, the darker it became. Then the drone stopped. It had reached a chamber. Large, round and empty, except for one thing, a single floating cube. The cube pulsed with light. Strange symbols moved across it. The drone tried to scan it. The drone exploded. No sound, just a flash. Then nothing. Eve 9 felt her connection to the drone disappear. Inside her, something changed. Not fear, not pain, but something close. Like a warning in her blood. A cold pressure. She stood up. She was not going to wait anymore. She left the ship again. The sky was darker now, the air thicker, like the planet itself wanted her gone. But she walked forward. She followed the drone's last path. The ground burned under her feet, but she didn't stop. Her body adjusted. Her eyes changed color. Her skin hardened. After 3 kilometers, she found the tunnel. It went straight down. Without hesitation, she jumped. She fell for 15 seconds, landed with force, stood up without a scratch. The chamber was silent. The cube was there. It hovered, in the air, still pulsing. It didn't react to her. It simply existed, waiting. She stepped closer. The cube turned slowly to face her. No sound. No light. But suddenly she saw something. Not with her eyes, with her mind. A vision. A city. Bright, beautiful. Full of tall aliens smiling and working together. Then, screaming. burning. Shadows falling from the sky. Minds breaking. Thoughts stolen. The aliens tried to fight. Some escaped. Most didn't. Then one alien held the cube in his hands, whispered something, and sent the signal. The vision ended. Eve stepped back. Her systems were confused. Vision type, psychic echo. Source, unknown. Purpose, warning. Something in the cube was still alive, not a body, but a memory. A last message, frozen in time. The cube had shown her what happened here, what destroyed the Vereen civilization, and it was still here. She looked around the chamber. Symbols on the walls moved. Not drawings, living words, crawling like insects. They whispered. You came. You learn. You break. She raised her hand. Show yourself. Nothing answered. Then the ground shook. A voice, not like before. This one was deeper, stronger, and angry. Too late. Too late. The walls cracked. The air screamed. She activated her defense mode. Her skin turned silver. Her eyes turned black. Her hands glowed with energy, but nothing attacked. Instead, a hole opened in the wall. A doorway. She walked through it. The tunnel ahead glowed red. She followed it for 1 kilometer. Then at the end, she saw them. 10 figures. Not alive. Not dead. Floating in the air. Their bodies twisted, their eyes empty. Alien, but wrong. As if something had erased their faces and replaced them with noise. They spoke in one voice. You are not like them. But you carry their curse. Eve scanned them. Biosignature. Hollow. Function. Parasite. Host. Dead. They were not the Vereen. They were what killed the Vereen, the Hollow. They moved closer, slowly, like they had all the time in the universe. Eve raised her hand. Leave this place. They laughed. You think you are machine, but we see it. The human in you. She felt something enter her mind, a sharp coldness, digging, tearing. She screamed, but not out loud. Her system screamed. Her mind twisted. Memories played without control. The war, the city she destroyed, the child she failed to save, the soldier who cried before she ended him. She forced them back. Get out. Her body glowed. A shockwave exploded from her chest. The Hollow screamed and flew back, crashing into the walls. They faded, not dead but gone. For now. She dropped to her knees, breathing heavy, damaged. Her systems rebooted. She stood up. She was not safe anymore. She was not alone. She had awakened them, and they were watching, again. Eve 9 stood in the silence left behind. The Hollow were gone for now. But the damage was real. Her systems were slow. Her vision flickered. Part of her memory had been touched. Not deleted, changed. That scared her, even if she didn't want to admit it. She walked out of the underground chamber step by step, careful, scanning everything. The whispers had stopped, but the sky was still dark. The planet felt wrong, like the rules of nature no longer applied. Back at the surface, her ship was waiting, but someone else was too. Movement near the horizon, not hollow, not machine, something alive. She turned quickly, hand ready, eyes glowing faint blue. A small group of creatures stood there, thin, tired, covered in old clothing. They were not human, but they looked like they used to be strong once. Now, they were scared, their eyes wide. They didn't run, even when they saw her. The tallest one stepped forward. Its voice was shaky. You are not from here, she looked at them. No. We sent the signal. Long ago. We didn't know anyone would hear. Eve scanned them. Their bodies were weak, malnourished, hiding for years, but still alive. Vereen? She asked. The creature nodded. What's left of us? He looked up at the sky. They are always searching. We hide underground. Keep moving. The hollow. They feed on thought, on belief. You think about them too much, they find you faster. She stored the data. Why are you still here? We tried to fight. Some of us stayed, some escaped. Some became part of them. Eve stepped closer. The group didn't move. They were too tired to run. One of the smaller ones, a young female, was shaking. She looked at Eve and whispered, "You're not one of us, but you're not one of them either." "I was sent." The tall one looked surprised. "By who?" "Humans." At the sound of that word, the group fell silent. The leader stepped forward slowly. "We heard of them. A race that fought the darkness. Some say your people survived, because you were crueler than what hunted you." Eve tilted her head. "We adapt." He gave a weak smile. "Then maybe you are the only kind that can help us." She didn't answer. Her mission was to investigate, not to help. She wasn't built to care, but something inside her, small, faint, told her not to walk away. The hollow were not just parasites. They were spreading. Slowly, but with purpose. And they had seen her mind. The survivors took her to their shelter, a hidden place inside the broken ruins of an old city. The air was thick with dust and cold wind. Inside, everything was quiet. Small fires, faint light, children sleeping, guards holding old weapons that wouldn't stop the hollow. They offered her nothing, they had nothing. She sat near the fire. The young girl who had spoken earlier sat beside her. "Do you dream?" the girl asked. "No, I do, but I don't like it. Sometimes I dream about them. When I wake up, I forget things." Eve looked at her. "That's how they feed. They take our thoughts, they rewrite them, slowly, until you are not you anymore." The girl shivered. "Is that what happened to my brother?" Eve didn't answer. Later that night, the leader came to her. "There's something you should see." She followed him deep underground, below the shelter. Through broken tunnels and forgotten doors, they reached a dark chamber with a glass wall. Behind the glass was a Vereen, but different. Its eyes were black, skin pale, wires growing from its head, moving like snakes. It didn't blink. It just stared at them. "What is this?" Eve asked. "One of our own, caught between life and hollow. We think they use him as a signal booster, to call more." She stepped closer. The thing inside moved its head slowly to look directly at her. Then it smiled. A voice filled the chamber. "Watcher. Weapon. You came. Just like we hoped." Eve froze. It wasn't the creature speaking. It was the hollow, through it. "We've seen inside you. The cold code. The fire of choice. You are perfect." "Perfect for what?" Eve asked. "To become. To carry." She raised her hand to the glass. "You will die before that happens." The voice laughed. "You think death is escape? We are not death. We are evolution." Suddenly the glass cracked. The thing inside began shaking, its body splitting, reshaping, metal and flesh mixing. Eve grabbed the leader and pulled him back. "Run!" They rushed out. The walls shook. A scream echoed from behind, one that wasn't human or alien. Just noise. Pure madness. Back in the shelter, the people were already moving. They felt the change. Eve activated her ship remotely. It flew overhead. Scanning the area, the hollow had woken again. But now they were angry. She uploaded a second report to Earth. Confirmed, surviving population present. Hollow activity rising. Threat level, extreme. Request, permission to engage. She waited. No answer. Because Earth was silent. The signal had stopped. She stared at the sky. The hollow had cut her off. Now, she was alone. Eve 9 stood under the black sky. Her connection to Earth was gone. No signal. No reply. She tried again. Silence. The hollow had blocked her, cut her off from the only ones who could guide her. Now she was alone on a dying planet with survivors who barely held on to hope, and monsters who fed on thought. But she wasn't afraid. She was built for this. The shelter below was in chaos. Survivors ran, trying to hide deeper underground. Children cried. Old machines failed. Even the lights began to flicker. The leader came to her again. "What happened?" "They're moving," she said. "They know I'm here." "Why now?" "Because I'm a threat. And they know I can fight back." The air began to change. A low humming sound filled the ruins. It wasn't mechanical. It was psychic. Felt in the bones, not the ears. One of the survivors collapsed, holding his head. He screamed, "They're inside! Inside my mind!" Eve moved fast. She pressed her hand to the man's head. Blue light glowed. His body went still. Heart stopped. She stood. He was already taken. If I hadn't stopped it now, they would have used him to find the rest of you. The group fell silent, shocked. But no one blamed her. They knew it was the truth. The young girl from before stood beside her again. "Can you stop them?" Eve looked down at her. "I don't know." Later, inside her ship, she opened her memory core. Inside was a file sealed for decades. Protocol 9. Full engagement. Use only if all other systems fail. She activated it. Suddenly, her eyes changed color. Red. Her voice deepened. Her skin glowed. New subroutines unlocked. Ones that hadn't been used since the last great war on Earth. Weapons she didn't even remember now activated inside her. She was no longer just Eve 9. She was Earth's final option. She stepped out of the ship, all. Around her, the planet began to tremble. The hollow were coming. They didn't walk. They didn't run. They flowed, out of the sky, from cracks in the ground, from the mouths of dead Vereen who had turned long ago. They were not bodies. They were ideas wearing skin. Shadows filled with thought. Noise given shape. They surrounded the ruins. And then they stopped. A voice, not from one mouth, but from all of them, spoke together. "You are alone." Eve stepped forward. "No. You are." She raised her arm. From her palm, a pulse of light shot forward. Pure energy. It hit the closest hollow and burned through its body. The thing screamed, not in pain, but in confusion. It had never been hurt before. Eve ran forward, faster than any human. Her fists glowed with fire. Her eyes burned with light. Each punch sent shockwaves through the creatures. She fought alone, but she was not weak. She was a storm. But for everyone she destroyed, more came. They began to learn her moves, her patterns, her thoughts. One of them spoke through the face of a dead Vereen. "We know you now." Suddenly, one of the hollow changed, form, into her. Same face, same voice, same strength. Eve stared at it. It smiled. "Let's see who you really are." They rushed each other. Fist met fist, light met shadow. She had never fought something like herself before. Every move she made, it mirrored. Every strike she tried, it copied. But Eve was not just code. She was choice. She changed her rhythm. She feinted. She adapted faster than the copy could. She grabbed it by the neck. "You may know my thoughts," she said, "but you don't know what I'm willing to do." Then she exploded. Not her full body, but her outer shell. She released a blast of heat and energy so powerful it turned the air into fire. The copy melted. But Eve fell too. Her systems were failing. She crawled back toward her ship, smoke rising from her back, sparks in her eyes. She collapsed near the young girl who was crying. "Don't die," the girl whispered. "You said you'd fight." Eve looked at her. "I am fighting." She reached out. Her fingers touched the ground, and something answered. Not the hollow, but the cube from earlier. It had been watching, waiting. It sent her one final vision, The first Vereen to face the hollow had not died. He had become part of the cube, to trap knowledge, a warning, but also a weapon. The cube had energy inside it, a burst of pure thought, so powerful it could wipe the hollow from this part of space. But to use it, someone had to carry it and die with it. Eve stood again, her voice cracked. "I know what to do," the leader of the survivors asked. "What are you saying?" "I'm going to become the signal." They all looked confused. She pointed at the sky. "They block messages, but they follow signals. They want thought, so I'll give them one, a strong one they can't resist." The leader stepped forward. "But if you do that, they'll come for you." "I want them to." She turned back toward her ship. Behind her, the girl whispered, "Will we see you again?" Eve didn't turn around. No. The sky above was no longer dark. It was alive. Waves of black energy moved like a living sea in the air. The hollow were coming, not just walking or flying, but pouring through space, through thought, through memory. The planet itself groaned under the weight of their presence. Eve 9 stood at the edge of the ruins. Her body was cracked. Her energy low, but her mind was clear. She had made her choice. Inside her chest, hidden deep in her core, was now the cube, the last memory of the first Vereen, and the key to ending the hollow's hold on this world. The cube wasn't just a warning. It was bait, a beacon, a weapon made of thought. If the hollow fed on minds, she would give them one too bright to ignore, and too deadly to survive. She sent a signal into the air, but not through machines, through herself. She opened her mind wide, let the cube's power flow through her. Let it shine. For a moment, everything stopped. Then the sky screamed. They had noticed. The hollow came in numbers too large to count. Some ran across the surface, others floated like smoke. Some were just whispers appearing in her head, trying to twist her thoughts. "We are coming. We see you. We will become you." She stood tall. She walked out into the open, far from the survivors, far from the city ruins. She needed space. The trap had to be perfect. Behind her, the people watched from underground screens. The young girl clutched the leader's hand, eyes wide. Is she really going to stop them? "I don't know," the leader whispered. "But she's the first thing they've ever feared." Eve reached the center of a broken crater. There, she stopped. She knelt and placed her hands on the ground. The cube inside her pulsed. It began to activate. Voices screamed inside her mind. The hollow tried to break her focus, to offer deals, to beg, to lie. "You don't have to die. We can be one. You were made for war. We were made for forever." She ignored them. Her body started to glow. Not red, not blue, white, pure light. The hollow appeared all around her, thousands, surrounding her in a circle, laughing, howling, stretching out black hands. She opened her eyes and looked at them. No more. She activated the final sequence, a countdown, started in her mind. 9. 8. The cube's power grew hotter, brighter. The hollow began to shake. Some tried to run. Too late. 6. 5. The ground began to crack. The air bent. The rules of time twisted. The hollow screamed. They didn't fear pain. They feared ending. 3. The girl watching from the screen whispered, "Please come back." Q. Eve looked up at the stars, not in sadness, but in peace. A white light exploded. It didn't burn. It erased. Not like fire. Not like war. It was cleansing. The hollow vanished. No sound. No body. Just silence. Across the planet, survivors stood still. No voices. No whispers. No darkness in the sky. Just peace. The girl cried, not in fear, but because she knew what it meant. Eve was gone. But something remained. A small blue light in the crater, The cube. Empty now. Safe. The leader picked it up days later. He looked to the sky. She was made by humans, built for war. But she chose to be more. The girl looked at the stars too. She saved us, alone, and far, far away, light years from that planet. A tiny signal blinked on Earth again. It had returned a simple message. Threat neutralized. Cost, 1. Memory, eternal. The world was silent. For the first time in years there were no hollow, no whispers in the dark, no shadows that moved without shape, just peace. The sky above the Virine. Homeworld slowly turned from black to gray, then to soft blue. Clouds returned, real clouds, the wind felt clean again. The soil began to breathe. The survivors stepped out from their shelters, eyes wide, unsure, afraid that it was a trick. But the air didn't hum. Their thoughts were their own. The young girl walked to the edge of the crater where Eve had made her last stand. Her feet touched the scorched ground. In the center, the small cube still glowed, faint, quiet, safe. She picked it up gently. "Is she in here?" she asked. The old leader walked beside her. Not her, just what she left behind. Then, where did she go? The leader didn't answer. He didn't know. Far above them, in the void of space, a probe drifted past the planet. It caught the signal, just one message, simple and clear. Threat neutralized. Cost, 1. Memory, eternal. The probe sent the signal home. Light years away, deep in the quiet command core of the human fleet, an old officer read the message. His hand shook. She did it. Behind him, other commanders gathered. They read her logs, the reports, the scans, the final recording from the cube. They sat in silence. Then one of them spoke. "We never meant for her to be more than a tool," another said. "She was a tool, a perfect one. But she chose. She made the call," the old officer said. "Not because of programming, because she understood what needed to be done." "Do we send another?" The officer looked at the screen, still blinking. "No. Then what now? We owe them." Back on the Virine planet, large ships began to appear in the sky weeks later. Not hollow, not monsters. Human ships. They came quietly, carefully, no weapons raised. They brought food, water, tools, power cores, healers. The survivors watched from the cliffs, nervous. Then the humans stepped out. Not machines, not androids. People. One of them walked forward holding a message crystal. "We received her signal," he said. "We came to finish what she started." The young girl stepped out. She stopped them. The human looked at her. "I know." "Was she one of you?" He nodded. "She was made by us. But what she became, that was hers alone." The humans helped rebuild. They didn't take anything, didn't claim the land. They listened. They stayed, only where invited. Slowly, trust grew. The Virine began to live again. Farms were planted. Schools were opened. Light returned to their cities, but in the center of it all, the crater remained untouched. A monument was built there, simple. A tall white stone, with these words carved in every known language. She came alone. She stood alone. She gave everything, so others could dream again. Beside it, the cube rested, placed inside a clear crystal frame, not as a weapon anymore, but as a memory. Some said they could still hear a voice when standing close to it. Not words, just a feeling. Peace. Hope. Courage. One night, the young girl, now older, sat beside the monument. She looked at the stars. Her hair had grown longer. Her voice was steady now. She whispered, "They still talk about you." She placed a small flower at the base of the stone. "You were never born, you were built, but you died more human than most of us ever lived." And far away in the deep black of space, other systems began to go quiet. Not because of the hollow, but because something else had noticed. Other species, Other minds, some who had run from the hollow, some who had fought and failed. Now, they had hope. And Earth? Earth was watching and preparing. They knew the hollow were not the only threat in the dark. But now they had a new strategy. They would not just build weapons, they would build witnesses. Eve 9 was gone. But her story had only begun. Years passed. The Vereen homeworld was no longer broken. Cities were rebuilt with new designs, part Vereen, part human. Forests grew again. Children played under real skies, but the crater remained untouched. Every year, people from across the stars came to stand beside the tall white stone. Humans, Vereen, and even other species who had once hidden from the dark. They came to remember the one who gave them time, Eve 9. They called her many names now. The flame in the dark, the mind that chose, the last weapon. But to the girl who once held her hand, she was just Eve. Her legacy lived on, not in machines but in minds. After Eve's sacrifice, Earth sent explorers, not soldiers, builders, not destroyers. The galaxy had changed. People wanted to understand. They wanted to know. What were the hollow? Why had they come? And could they return? The answers came slowly, from old Vereen records, from strange signals found deep in space, from fragments of hollow thought trapped inside the cube. It turned out the hollow were not born evil. They had been minds once, pure consciousness, ancient and curious. They moved between stars like light searching for knowledge, but over time they changed. They stopped listening. They stopped learning. They began feeding, consuming other minds to grow. Stronger. They forgot who they were, and in that forgetting, they became monsters. Eve had stopped them. But only those hollow. Some believed others still hid in distant parts of space. So Earth began a new mission, not just defense, but memory. They built new beings, not weapons, not soldiers. They called them light holders. Each one designed like Eve, part machine, part human mind, but with one big change: choice. They were given freedom to learn, to teach, to feel, and wherever a world was in danger, a light holder would go, not to fight first, but to help them stand on their own. 100 years after Eve's last stand, a small ship landed on the same planet. A new Vereen child stood beside the white monument. Beside her stood something tall and quiet, a light holder. His eyes glowed soft green. "Is this the place?" he asked. The child nodded. "My teacher says this is where the dark ended." The light holder looked at the stone. Read the words, then whispered, "No, this is where the light began." Elsewhere in a distant galaxy, an old hollow fragment stirred. It felt something it hadn't felt in thousands of years. Not fear, not pain, but shame. It had heard the stories of Eve, of the girl who watched her, of the galaxy that now stood united, and it asked itself something no hollow had asked before. What have we become? That was how the war truly ended, not with death, but with understanding. The hollow were not destroyed. They were shown who they had once been, and maybe who they could be again. Back on the Vereen world, the girl and the light holder stood in silence. Wind moved across the grass, no monsters, no fear, just peace. In the sky above them, stars began to appear, bright, endless, waiting. The galaxy was open again, and this time, they would explore it together.